Hello everybody, Raven Knight here. Now, some of you may know this already, but I'm a fan of the anime Ranma 1/2, a very entertaining and comedic manga and anime from the 80s that was one of the first cross-continental hits that brought anime to American audiences. I've talked about the anime in a previous video, but for those who missed it, here's a quick synopsis. Ranma Saotome, the protagonist, is the heir to the Anything Goes school of martial arts, training since childhood in the ways of fighting and kung fu. One day, while traveling to China to train, Ranma and his father both fall victim to a curse. In Ranma's case, being splashed by cold water will transform him into a girl, while hot water will restore him once more.
ここは1500年前、若い娘が溺れたという悲劇的伝説があるのだよ。以来ここで溺れた者皆、若い娘になってしまう呪い的泉。
This would be bad enough, but Ranma also learns that he's been arranged to be married to the daughter of the Tendo School of Anything Goes of Martial Arts, Akane Tendo. Now, Akane and Ranma seem to despise each other at first, as Akane wants nothing to do with the marriage and Ranma just wants to remove his curse and doesn't want anything to do with her. Especially since there was a big confusion between the two about perversions. But as time goes on, the two begin to see each other as better people and start to explore each other's better qualities, learning to care more for one another, and both finding it hard to admit that they like each other, but secretly we all know that they do. Many consider it to be the progenitor of the martial arts comedy genre of anime that we know and love today, and while the Ranma series creator Rumiko Takahashi would become far more popular for her Inuyasha series, Ranma still has a great deal of heart to it, and in my opinion, it's a highly underrated manga series. When I heard that the anime was getting a reboot, I was very much excited. The animation looks great, and some of the original cast are returning to reprise their roles, which is honestly very exciting. But of course, as is always the case with remakes or reboots, there is always a fear of unnecessary changes. I had heard rumors about how Ranma will be made woke or politically correct by censoring certain aspects of the show. However, after watching the show up to episode 7, so far, I think it's incredibly good. There isn't all that much censorship, at least not enough to be an issue, and the show is actually more true to the manga than the original anime was. I think it's a really good adaptation that honestly seems better than the original. But, according to this article from Screen Rant, what Ranma 1/2's remake really needs to do is fix the series' most problematic character. Now, I always get concerned when people say we need to fix a problematic anything, so let's read the article together and see if we can find out what the problem really is, shall we? Let's begin. The Ranma 1/2 remake will have to fix the series' most problematic character. The Ranma 1/2 franchise is home to some of anime's most iconic and beloved characters. For many decades, this amazing series has remained one of the most popular, mostly thanks to how endearing its cast is. From the stubborn but kind Ranma to the hot-headed and caring Akane, the show has someone for all audience members to enjoy. Nonetheless, among the lovable cast hides one of the most divisive and despicable characters, Master Happosai. Mentor to Genma and Son, this conniving and manipulative elder has been described as the least popular character by some fans. His behavior, lack of morals, and refusal to better himself make him the most despised individual in the series. The Ranma 1/2 remake has garnered praise for its fresh rendition of this iconic story, but how it deals with Happosai will be the true testing ground of the new series. It's Happosai. Interesting. Well, there is no question that he's one of the most hated characters in the series, but that was kind of the point. We're supposed to hate him. He's the definition of an irredeemable bastard. But how do you want us to fix him? Are you saying you want him removed? I mean, that would be detrimental to the story in a huge way, as there are quite a few arcs that revolve around his actions. Are you saying you want him to be given redeemable qualities or tone down his perversions? Again, this would feel like a disservice as we are expected to hate him. If you make him redeemable, we now have less reason to want Ranma to beat him. And I really don't like that phrasing, it'll be the true testing ground of the series. Like, this is going to be what makes or break the series. Testing ground? To be perfectly honest, it's not. The true test of the series will be how faithful it is to the original source material. Demanding that the show actually change itself to suit modern sensibilities would be a spectacular failing on its part. I mean, think about this for a second. Happosai is the way you claim to dislike in the original series, and yet it is beloved. A lot of people love the show, and you said yourself, there's a character for everyone. So the original Ranma was fantastic despite Happosai. Now you're saying, well, in this new one, they better fix Happosai. That's going to be the real test of this show. Is it? Are you saying people won't like it because of Happosai? No, the fans of Ranma will enjoy it despite Happosai just as they did previously. And as a fan of the original, I can say this. I love the show so far, and I hope they continue being as true to the manga and anime as possible. But, you know what? I'm interested to see your argumentation. I want to know how you want us to fix Happosai. How would you do it? So, let's hear your argument. Let's go. Happosai is Ranma 1/2's worst character. Not even the villains are as despicable. Well, I mean, he is a villain, so... Master Happosai is a short, almost harmless elderly man known for being the creator of the Anything Goes School of Martial Arts, as well as being Genma and Son's teacher. Despite his frail appearance, he is among the most powerful characters in Ranma 1/2, with even the protagonist having trouble defeating him in a fair fight. Instead of using his skills for good, Happosai has spent his entire life cheating, stealing, and mocking others, confident in the fact that not many can harm him. Worst of all, he is a womanizer who does not care about age and is willing to harass anyone if he can satisfy his lowest desires. He is often being pursued out of the Furnican High's girls' locker room for trying to spawn the teenagers or stealing their undergarments. He has never shown remorse for his actions, going as far as to proudly display the stolen clothes while bragging about his skills. While not a recurring antagonist, his disrespectful attitude has caused many fans to despise him. Okay, hold on, time out, but he is a recurring antagonist. He is an antagonist. There are whole plot points that revolve around Ranma trying to stop him or undo his villainy. Happosai doesn't regret his actions because he's seen by his own students as a demon. There is no question he's an antagonist. The fact he can't be beaten in conventional ways is part of the comedy. How can Ranma and the crew outwit him and stop him? I don't know why you fail to see him as an antagonist. They failed because he's so strong. Wait, hold on. Do you think he's a protagonist? You say that he's not a recurring antagonist, so what do you think he is, a protagonist? Are you serious? He's definitely not a mentor to the cast, as he never really teaches anyone anything meaningful. He's a constant obstacle and issue for Ranma and his friends. In fact, there are episodes and arcs specifically about the problems he causes. I mean, sure, he's not a world-ending threat villain like Frieza or Madara Uchiha, but that doesn't make him any less of an antagonist. He's still a foe, he's still an obstacle, he's still a threat. He's still an antagonist. Where was that coming from? Happosai's contributions to the series could have been handled by other characters. His teachings could have been imparted by any other recurring master. While not one of the main characters, Happosai is a recurring member of Ranma 1/2's cast, being a regular teacher for the protagonist. Okay, challenge accepted. Name one thing that he teaches Ranma. You say that he's a teacher for the protagonist. Okay, put your money where your mouth is. Name one thing that he teaches Ranma. In fact, Ranma regularly states he doesn't want to learn anything Happosai could possibly teach him, saying there's nothing the old goat has to teach him, and Happosai is too busy being a lecherous pig to take the time to teach anything anyway. I mean, unless it was offhanded, Happosai never teaches Ranma any techniques or skills. More often than not, Ranma has to learn techniques and skills just to beat Happosai. Due to his incredible strength and plethora of special techniques, he was often used as a temporary teacher for the heroes. Again, he's not really a mentor to anyone. I think the only person he ever teaches is Kuno, and it was also he could use Kuno to get what he wanted. And Kuno's definitely not a hero. He's an on-off again antagonist and kind of a joke. I can't think of anyone else that Happosai ever even attempted to train. And believe me, he didn't train Kuno that long. This led to him becoming a constant inhabitant of the Tendo household, a decision that greatly facilitated his horrible hobby. Alright, okay. I see the problem here. I think we need a refresher on the series. All right, let me refresh you. Happosai was not allowed to live in the Tendo household because of him being a regular teacher of the cast. He lives in the Tendo household because he invited himself, and Son Tendo is too much of a coward to force him to leave, knowing he's no match for Happosai. See, the story goes that, in their youth, Son Tendo and Genma Saotome betrayed Happosai by trapping him in a cave and sealing it. But now in the present, Happosai broke free and has returned to make hell for the two of them, while also wanting to choose his heir.
But I didn't come here for revenge, so you two can relax. The truth is, boys, I'm not getting any younger, and it's high time I pick myself an heir. It's about time one of you two volunteered to take over the Anything Goes School of Martial Arts, and then... Huh? And just where do you think you two are going?
Ranma is elected as his heir by Son and Genma, without Ranma's permission.
Here, Master, why don't you take this one for your heir? I'll sign all my parental rights over to you.
Ooh.
I know he's not much to look at, but he cleans up nice.
Ooh.
And Happosai, after learning about Ranma's curse, is more than happy to exploit it and abuse Ranma for it.
He can find a new...
Good morning!
And what's so good about it, you old freak? Hey! Where'd he... Okay, you want to fight? You got one.
How round, how firm, how fully packed. Oh.
He lives in the house and tortures the cast because none of them have the power to kick him out. They do not keep him around because he's such a good teacher. He sticks around because none of the cast have the power to truly get rid of him, and he is freeloading. That's what's going on. You're saying that he sticks around because he's a good teacher? No. No, that's not why. To be perfectly honest, most of the cast would love for him to leave. Although his teaching did serve Ranma on several occasions, like forcing him to admit his own care and affection for Akane, they do not justify his presence in a series otherwise praised for his great depiction of gender issues. I knew we'd get here. But let's address it. Okay, Ranma 1/2 is not about gender issues. It is a comedy about a boy who turns into a girl through a curse. The show does not explore themes of sexuality, gender, or anything of that nature. If anything, Ranma, when not lamenting his curse, is making use of it to outwit opponents or cheat the system to get his way.
You're so cute, I thought I'd give you an extra scoop.
Yay! Hey, mister, thanks!
All right, here you go.
Yep, when it comes to eating out, being a girl's the only way to go.
But, alright, name any gender issues discussed or explored in this anime. What thoughtful approach to the modern topic of gender does this anime engage with? What does it address? Or is it just a comedy that shouldn't be taken that seriously? I, for one, do not understand how Ranma explores any kind of gender issues outside of the fact that he turns into a girl when splashed with cold water, and he wishes that he didn't. I've heard some people try to argue, oh, well, Ranma's learning to accept his girl half. Ranma has gotten used to his girl half, and he knows how to use it to his benefit. He knows how to use it to cheat the system and get one up on his opponents. He knows how to use it as a distraction tool or as a way to fight certain opponents that he couldn't fight any other way, or he's forced to use it to fight female opponents that Akane can't go up against. He's learned how to use it to his benefit, but that does not mean that he accepts it as his true self or a part of who he is. Most of Ranma's adventures and stories revolve around him lamenting the fact that he has a curse and wanting a way to turn back. Granted, he does not find a way by the end of the series, but the series is left very open-ended. It could be argued that he finds a way later on, or he doesn't and he just learns to live with it, but it doesn't change how he views himself. So I don't understand what this is exploring. Happosai's role could have been given to any other several other martial arts Ranma's crossed paths with. Cologne, Shampoo's grandmother, is several times more capable and sensible as a teacher than Genma's mentor, and could have been a perfect teacher for the protagonist. If not her, the series could have introduced another mentor for Ranma, one who would not indulge in the same lecherous acts as Happosai. Besides being the man who traumatized Genma and Son, Happosai does not serve any unique role in the show. Alright, now you're just being obtuse. He is a recurring antagonist. He proves to be a foil for Ranma that he cannot overcome through his own skill alone. allow me to explain this more clearly. I think we need to really dumb this down for you. Up until the arrival of Happosai, only Cologne herself was proven to be Ranma's superior. She was the only one who could very easily defeat Ranma, but Cologne had agreed to a sort of truce with Ranma when she lost to him during the Phoenix Pill arc when she underestimated him and didn't realize he knew the Cat Fist. Now, Cologne takes a more indirect backseat to Ranma's life after this point. She'll occasionally teach him techniques or use manipulative means to help Shampoo, her granddaughter, try to win Ranma's heart, but she rarely engages in direct combat with Ranma anymore. In a very funny way, Cologne actually cares about Ranma's well-being and wants what's best for him, which is why she doesn't directly try to force anything on him. She just wants Ranma and Shampoo to get married, but she'll still assist Ranma when he needs it, making her an ideal on and off again mentor. In fact, when Happosai causes trouble, Cologne is usually the one who steps in to teach Ranma a technique to defeat Happosai. But other than Cologne, no other foe of Ranma can hope to beat him. Kuno, Ryoga, Moose, Kodachi, the Principal, and every other villain is proved to be no match for Ranma for one reason or another, right? Happosai, though, is different. Ranma is not his equal, and that's what made it clear. Ranma is not his equal, and that's what's made clear frequently. Even Cologne struggles against Happosai, and this makes Happosai that much more dangerous.
That freak just ain't human.
He's good.
Huh?
Oh, son-in-law, I would not tangle with that one if I were you.
What?
Come along, Shampoo.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Consider this. Imagine if Happosai was not a lecherous pervert and actually took his fight seriously. He could be the most dangerous being in all the show. But luckily for us, Happosai is a lecherous old geezer who doesn't take anything seriously, which is how Ranma can even hope to beat him from time to time, but that doesn't make him any less dangerous.
Are you okay?
Well, he's not your average dirty old man.
But why did he run off like that? I thought he wanted to see you in that bra so badly. I don't understand it.
See, Happosai acts as a foil, a motivation, and a threat to be dealt with. He 100% has a unique purpose in the show and does have a unique role. Just because you don't like his behavior does not mean he doesn't serve a purpose. I can't believe we're actually at this point where someone is unironically arguing, please make the villain more likable. Happosai's actions should not be justified. The series never truly punishes him for his crimes. Throughout most of the series, Happosai's crimes are treated as nothing more than a joke, with the worst punishment he received being the women he harassed hitting him. There are never any serious consequences for his actions, letting him continue with his obscenities unabated. Ranma tried several times to put a stop to the elderly man, mostly when Akane was being targeted by him. Even then, Happosai would come out victorious on most occasions, as if to prove that his behavior was not a real threat. Okay, this is going to sound awful, but hear me out. It's not that big of a threat. Yes, Happosai steals women's underwear, and he's a perv. It's certainly annoying and irritating and wrong of him, don't get me wrong, but it does not serve as the real threat to the cast. See, what often happens is that Ranma will stop him and undo his schemes of being a perv, right? And Happosai will get upset by this and take his revenge on Ranma, which will be the real threat. The panty stealing is more the crime that causes the initial conflict. I know this may seem bad to say that, but comparatively, Happosai's lecherous behavior is less of a threat than the means of revenge he's willing to take on Ranma and others who get in his way. There are actually moments where Genma and Son Tendo will beg Ranma not to interfere with Happosai's perversions so that he doesn't take out his anger on them. They just kind of let Happosai do whatever he wants because they know that what he'll do if they try to stop him is far worse. They've taken the lesser of two evils in this case. Now, again, I'm not saying what Happosai does is good, but in terms of being a real threat or not, it's not the bigger threat to what Happosai could be capable of doing. What is more, the Master would constantly get rewarded before his punishment, with Ranma having to use the cursed form he acquired in Jusenkyo to distract him. The protagonist would allow Happosai to ogle or even touch him just to have enough time to properly attack him. This is an unusual stumble for a series that's famous for being so forward-thinking, and a result of the times when it was originally written, when Happosai's brand of comedic relief was pretty common. the fact that the series finds new ways to justify his harassment is one of its most controversial aspects, seeing as most fans do not agree with his actions. Okay, there is so much wrong with this paragraph. I'm not entirely sure where to start. Whew, okay. Alright, let's start with you saying he gets rewarded before his punishment. What does that even mean? Your example is that Ranma uses his female form to distract him before defeating him. How is that a bad thing?
Lovely thing still. Ah, an oasis in the desert. Oh, wow. What a sight for sore eyes!
Falling for an old gag like that, you ought to be ashamed.
No, really, how is that a bad thing? Ranma knows the old goat's weakness and is uniquely capable of exploiting it. Ranma knows that if he can't beat Happosai directly, he'll use the old man's own perversion to get him to lower his guard and defeat him. As Sun Tzu says, all warfare is based on deception. Using a distraction or diversionary tactic to draw in an opponent is a good strategy. It's how a lot of fishermen catch fish. Would you say that when the fish takes the worm on the hook, that is the reward before they get punished for it? Is it because you prefer Ranma not to do this? Why? Because he's using sex appeal as a weapon? Is it somehow offensive to you that a woman use her beauty rather than just raw strength? Do I need to remind you that Ranma isn't trans or feminine? He is cursed, but is willing to use that curse when he needs to. And there's nothing wrong with a woman using her beauty and sex appeal as a tool to outwit their foes and obstacles. In fact, it shows creativity, ingenuity, and resourcefulness. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The female frame, the female form, is beautiful. God designed women to be beautiful. And a woman who knows how to use that beauty is a smart woman. Next, you say, this is an unusual stumble for a series that's famous for being forward-thinking. How? Why? Happosai's not the first perv or creep in the show. I mean, let's look at Ryoga Hibiki, who deliberately turns into a black piglet that Akane has taken in as a pet, and he enjoys sleeping next to her chest nightly. A deed that Ranma takes great issue with and constantly tries to stop him from doing. There's a perv right there. Then you have Makoto Senzenin, who openly claims his goal in life is to steal a kiss from 100 different women. No, that's not creepy at all. Then you have Tatewake Kuno and his sister Kodachi Kuno, both of whom are hopeless, as Kuno is more than willing to two-time both Akane and the pigtailed girl, since he doesn't know about Ranma being the girl form as well, and Kodachi actually drugged Ranma to get him in bed with her. What the hell do you mean this anime is forward-thinking up until Happosai? If your argument is, oh, this anime was so forward-thinking and then we introduced this pervert, I'm sorry, we've got a list of perverts lined up before Happosai. Happosai just happens to be the worst of them, so I have no idea what you're talking about. Then, you say it's a result of the times when it was originally written, when Happosai's brand of comedic relief was pretty common. Yeah? You're right. So? The lecherous teacher who gets punished for his perversions or falls victim to distractions using it? Yeah, we've seen it. You know what? Naruto's one of the most famous anime ever made. His teacher Jiraiya fits that mold. He is the pervy sage, the pervy sensei. Want to know how Naruto convinces him to teach him? He turns into a naked woman to, just kind of convince him. And during their training, Jiraiya constantly gets distracted by women skinny dipping. Are you going to tell us that Jiraiya is a problem now? Jiraiya is a false step in a forward-thinking show like Naruto? What about Master Roshi from Dragon Ball Z, one of the most famous anime ever made? In fact, the most famous anime ever made, I'd argue, besides Pokemon. Master Roshi is a massive perv. When we're first introduced to him, he wants to see Bulma's underwear to give her the Dragon Ball. And he constantly asks Goku to show him a woman so that he'll train Goku. Again, are you going to get on Master Roshi? Are you going to say that he is a false step in a forward-thinking anime? Are you going to say that he's a big problem? What about Kensei Ma from Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple? The Kung Fu master of Ryozan Paku, who constantly takes pictures of women and loves accosting women constantly. Are you going to call him a problem? You want to know the difference between all of them and Happosai, though? They're not the villains. Happosai is a villain. He doesn't teach Ranma anything. At least Jiraiya, Roshi, and Kensei taught their disciples something, but Happosai teaches them nothing, which means that when Happosai gets distracted by a woman, it's even funnier because we know that it's being used to catch him and defeat him. With the others, it's just kind of a distraction from their normal training routine. It is a common trope in martial arts comedies to have the perverted master. Happosai just happens to be the most perverse of them all and a true villain, while the others are just mentors. But I'm serious, are you going to call out Jiraiya, Roshi, or Kensei? I mean, they don't get really punished for their behavior either. It's more of a joke with them, and we appreciate it for the comedy. With Happosai, though, it can be used to defeat him. And finally, I know I've been on this for a while, and I apologize, but the funniest part of all, you say, quote, "The fact that this series finds new ways to justify his harassment is one of its most controversial aspects, seeing as most fans do not agree with his actions." Okay. So, when does the show justify what he does? No, I'm serious. Name a moment when what he does is justified. Name a time when the cast says, well, his actions are okay because... Please. Name a moment when the show says, yeah, Happosai is justified in what he does. Or are you saying that because he often gets away with his evil behavior, are you saying the show is justifying it? Let me ask you a question. In Batman TV shows or comics, when the Joker does something evil, are we justifying it? If the Joker kills a bunch of people and Batman doesn't manage to stop him in time, is the comic or TV show that shows it justifying that? Is it saying, Joker got away with this murder? It's clearly justifying it. No. Evil people do evil things. That's why we have good people out there to try to stop them. And you cannot deny that Ranma is often there to stop Happosai. And if he fails to stop Happosai, you can bet he's going to come back later and try again. Ranma is not one to take that crap lying down. In fact, he is the most consistent in trying to stop Happosai. The show never justifies what he does. It never says what he does is good. Yes, Son Tendo and Genma Saotome try to ask Ranma not to stop him because they're afraid of what he'll do if he tries, but Ranma never listens to them and does actually stop him, quite frequently. And yes, Happosai is going to show up to do it again later. That's what we call a recurring antagonist, which you claim he's not. I'm actually a little baffled by this. What is your major malfunction? Genma and Ranma's trauma is mainly due to Happosai. His only positive contribution to the series is explaining why Genma is such a bad father. As a youngster, Genma Saotome endured harrowing training as Happosai's student. His mentor would force him to be an accomplice to his crimes and torture him for fun. Genma was also essentially kidnapped by his trainer, who would never stay too long in a town as he would be persecuted by its citizens. By the end of the journey, Genma and his trusted friend Son decided to abandon their master, trapping him inside a cave. Even though he became free from his master's torment, the trauma left on his mind never abandoned him. He imposed the same gruesome nomadic training on his son. Dragging him across the globe as just an infant to turn him into a masterful martial artist. Genma also imposed on his son the idea of becoming a man among men, forcing him to hide his emotions, implanting in his head the idea that women were weaker, and forcing him to learn inhumane techniques like the cat fist. To escape from his teacher, Ranma's father became something worse. This is one of the many difficulties that the protagonist learns to break away from during the story. You can't help yourself. You can't do it. You can't help yourself. You just couldn't help it. You just couldn't keep yourself on topic. You were doing real good up until this line. Genma also imposed on his son the idea of becoming a man among men, forcing him to hide his emotions, implanting in his head the idea that women were weaker, and forcing him to learn inhumane techniques like the cat fist. You see that, guys? Do I even need to point this out? Do you see the obvious forced insertion of sexism here? Okay, watch. Genma also imposed on his son the idea of becoming a man among men. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Genma does encourage Ranma to be manly. He does encourage him to be a man quite frequently. There is no question about that. But I don't see a problem with that. We should encourage young boys to grow up to be proper men. I don't see an issue with that. Then Genma often encourages Ranma to behave like a man, forcing him to hide his emotions, implanting in his head the idea that women are weaker. When, where, and how? Name a moment. When does Genma say that women are weaker, and Ranma needs to hide his emotions. There are moments where Genma shows his emotions. In fact, the first time we see Genma out of panda form, he is sobbing because he's telling Mr. Tendo all about their curse and what happened to them. He is weeping over the fact that his son is cursed and so is he. He's weeping and lamenting their fate. He is showing emotion. Genma is more than capable of showing emotion, and he knows how to. I can't think of one moment where he said, Ranma, stop showing your emotions. Yes, he did say that he needs to be more careful of a woman's feelings. He did say that he needs to be more sensitive towards Akane. He has said that, but he never said that women were weaker. As a matter of fact, what I find funny about that is Genma has seen Akane's impressive fighting skill. He and Ranma were both on the run in China from Shampoo. He was trying to kill them both. And Genma has been bested by women in combat like Ukyo. So no, Genma never said that women were weaker. I don't think he's ever said that. Then the author tries to jump back into objective facts by bringing up the catfish, which has nothing to do with the sexism accusations from earlier, but granted the catfish training was entirely inhumane. But wow, that was so blatant. Like, you couldn't help yourself. It's kind of like what they were trying to do is say, let's look at what Genma says. He says that Ranma needs to be a man among men. Yes, he does. He says that he needs to treat women as weaker. When did he do that? And he says that the cat fist is bad. Well, yes, the cat fist is clearly bad, but where did that middle bit come from? Oh, that was bad. Let me be clear. Genma is a terrible father, no question. And we can blame some of that on his upbringing under Happosai. Again, I agree with that. But some of these accusations are completely fabricated. Genma is a bad father for a lot of reasons. This is not one of them. As the manga and anime progressed, fans witnessed how Ranma and Akane abandoned these toxic ideas that were implanted in them as children. What toxic ideas? Now, again, I'm not even kidding. What toxic ideas are they breaking away from? What toxic ideas are being imparted? Name them. I'm sincerely concerned about what you think this show is trying to do. Do you honestly think that this show is actually about overcoming toxic ideals and teachings? Look, here's a shocker for you. I'm not sure you got this, but I'm going to go ahead and lay it out. It is a martial arts comedy mixing romance, goofy antics, and funny slapstick. It is not that deep. This is not a show that's trying to be ahead of the times and try to really explore things that we've never explored before, really trying to beat them. I think that there's this problem nowadays where people assume that everything, absolutely everything, has to be some kind of messaging. It has to be some kind of lesson or some kind of deconstruction of societal norms or societal ideals. And you're like, oh, what are the toxic teachings that Ranma and Akane are trying to overcome? What are the toxic things that they're imparting on their children? They're not. Again, Genma's a bad father and Tendo's a coward. I don't deny this. But what bad teachings are they imparting? As a matter of fact, it's kind of funny. Both Ranma and Akane constantly, from the very beginning, chastise their own fathers for their stupid behavior. It's not like they've been taught all these things and now they're suddenly breaking away from it. Ranma has always known that Genma's a piece of shit, and Akane has always known that her father's kind of a coward. Let's be real. This is one of the main themes of the series, breaking away from harmful traditions and accepting who one is. Nope, you're 100% wrong there. I can't really say that's an accurate theme. In fact, I'd say that it's about as far from a proper theme of Ranma 1/2 as can be said. What tradition was broken from? What tradition? I'm not kidding. What tradition was broken from? Okay, did Ranma and Akane break off their traditional arranged marriage? Because that's the big one. When I think about tradition in this anime, when I think about any kind of tradition, I think about the traditional marriage ceremony. Like, we are going to set up a traditional arranged marriage. Did they break from that? Did they defy their father's wishes? No. In fact, they're still very much in love, and they constantly call each other fiancés. Sure, there will be times where they say, I want nothing to do with you, where they get into their little spats, but they always come back. Did Ranma ever not accept who he was? Is Ranma ever weighing the idea, am I a man or a woman? I can't tell. No, Ranma constantly declares he's a guy. Ranma constantly declares he's a guy and never once caves to the idea that he could be anything else. There was only one moment where he did proclaim himself as a woman, but that was in a filler episode from the original anime where he suffered brain damage because he hit his head hard on a rock and thought he was a woman. Please tell me that's not what you assume transgenderism is, brain damage. Please tell me that's not where you're going with that, because that would be something of a hot take, I'd say. Look, I know what you're trying to do. I get it. I see it. You're trying to push that Ranma is transgender of some variety or some part of the LGBTQ movement, and then the show revolves around him coming to terms with his new identity. But sorry, it's not. He's not breaking any harmful traditions. He's not accepting who he is. Look, I'm sure lots of trans fans out there like the gender bender aspect of this show. I don't blame them for that. You're free to like it for whatever reason you like it for. But Ranma's not trans. He did not choose his curse, and it was not something he was born with. Ranma fell into a pool, and now suffers a curse that he hates. However, as I said before, he is willing to use that curse to manipulate, outplay, and distract his foes. He uses it to get free food, as he says in this clip. He's willing to use it to fight certain opponents that his friends can't, and he's willing to use it to distract Happosai and other perverted characters. He does not use it to say, I want to be a woman. So let me ask you, is that what you see trans people as? Is that what you see Ranma's true awakening as? Being a manipulative person who uses their gender identity to use others, manipulate people, and distract their peers in order to gain an edge over them? Wow. That says a great deal about you, my friend. Happosai was necessary to explain why Genma became such a harsh and negative role model for his son. Nevertheless, introducing him back to the plot was not a necessity, and actively disregarded the idea of fighting against toxic teachings. Why? Again, you act like Happosai is praised or rewarded for his wicked deeds. He's not. No one praises him. No one is happy for his evil deeds. Everyone doesn't like them. Tendo and Genma Saotome beg him not to, but they're so afraid of him that they can't stop him. Ranma's the only one who constantly tries to stop him, even when begged not to, because he refuses to cave to Happosai. No one ever says, what he's doing is fine. It's okay. Let's let him get away with it. No one ever says that. But please, point to the scene, point to the episode, or point to the chapter where they do that. I would love to see it. Overall, Happosai is one of the least popular cast members of the Ranma 1/2 anime, and with good reason. He is a horrible teacher, an unrepentant criminal, and the cause of many of the protagonist's troubles. Wait, I'm sorry, I thought you said he didn't serve a unique role in the series. Now you're saying he's the cause of many of the protagonist's troubles. Oh, so he's an antagonist. I guess he did serve a role. The remake has been nothing short of impressive until now, but we'll have to find a way to make Happosai's character less controversial. No. Just a big old nope on that one. See, we're going to go ahead and wrap up with this. I know I've been going on for a while, guys, and I do deeply apologize for that, but I do feel the need to really stress this. Okay, so Ranma 1/2 is a very funny anime. I enjoyed it when I was younger. It was a funny anime. It has its problems for sure, but one thing that I will say about it that I really like is it had a lot of comedy and a lot of heart to it. It had a very creative cast of characters. It had a very funny premise, and I get why it has such a big audience. I get it. Happosai, as a character, is a major foil and issue for the cast. I do not understand why people are of this opinion that Happosai needs to be changed. In fact, I don't understand why they feel the need to change anything. Let me be clear about this. Ranma 1/2 is beloved. I would argue it's probably Rumiko Takahashi's second most popular work besides Inuyasha. And she has said many times that she loves what she did with Ranma and had fun with it. So why would we want to change that? If it was so popular and so beloved, why would we want to change anything? What is this obsession with modern creators wanting to take something that was beloved and say, hey, you know how everyone loved this? Let's change it. Take away some of the things that people liked about it, or alter it in a way that we think will be better in our own minds, and maybe people will still love it. You have no evidence to support that. If people loved it despite Happosai in the original, why do you think changing Happosai would fix anything? Especially when changing Happosai or removing Happosai takes away a lot of the arcs and events that would happen in the story. If you make Happosai more redeemable, we have less reason to hate him. If you take Happosai away entirely, you'd still have to replace him with someone who causes those incidents in the first place that lead to those arcs. But if you remove Happosai, or just change how he behaves and takes away his lecherous streak, you take away a lot of that. If you make Happosai less of a piece of shit, then he won't hit Ranma's weak point. The lecherousness won't be necessary to be his weakness. Like, I think you don't even realize just how much you'd be damaging a part of the show just to get a more acceptable character. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of the idea of, oh, we need to make more relatable villains. We need to make more compassionate villains. We need to make kinder villains. Can't we just have a villain who everyone dislikes? Can't we just have a villain that people detest? That's what Happosai is. Everyone detests him. And you know what's funny? I think that's okay. We want him to lose. We want him to be beaten. I've never met anyone who enjoys Ranma who said, oh man, I wish they'd just get rid of Happosai, man. I just wish they'd get rid of that guy. No, I've met people who say, dude, he's so annoying. What a piece of crap. I love it every time Ranma beats him. Because I do too. But you know what? You haven't answered a major question here. I think the major question is, how would you want them to fix it? You say it'll be the ultimate testing ground of the new show. You're saying it'll make it less controversial. Well, okay, how would you do it? What would you do? Because I guarantee any option you provide will not be sufficient. If you say to get rid of Happosai, you're taking away a key character who caused a lot of the arcs and events in the story. And if you make him less reprehensible by taking away his perversions, making him less greedy, yeah, you may have a new mentor character, but you take away a major villain, and you take away a lot of the ingenuity and creativity that Ranma had to go through to beat him. Which then creates another problem. If you say, oh, well, we could just make another character to do that. Okay, but wouldn't he have the same problems as Happosai then? You'd be taking away the awfulness of Happosai to create a brand new Happosai. See, that's the problem. You want them to fix it, but they shouldn't fix a damn thing. So far, I've been watching the anime, and I'm going to say this, hot take, I know, but it's better than the original. It's like Ranma 1/2 Kai, like Dragon Ball Z Kai, only Ranma 1/2 Kai. It cuts out a lot of the filler, it's more true to the manga, and it has spectacular animation. I love watching it. The animation style shifts on occasion in some of the fight scenes to make it look more dynamic. It has really funny reaction faces. Like, it does such a good job with what it has to work with. I can't wait for them to add Happosai, because I want to see how they approach this guy. How will they do this? Because he's a little squat loser. How are they going to make him fight? This is going to be so funny. I think it will be hilarious. But that's not what you look at. That's not what you look at. And I think that's the biggest problem. I think that's one of the biggest problems that people have with Ranma 1/2 and anime like it. They don't look at it in terms of a funny comedy series. They look at it in terms of an exploration of identity or toxic lessons being overcome, and not everything is like that. It's actually funny, Rumiko Takahashi has been asked on occasion what would happen if Ranma got pregnant in his female form, and her response is perfect. She says, I don't think about that, and neither should you. Yeah, that's the best response I can think of. Take that kind of crap and take it away. Just leave it behind. Her goal with Ranma 1/2 was to laugh and have a good time with it. That's what I got from it. That's what a lot of the fans got from it. I'm sorry that's not what you get from it. But anyway, that's all the time we have. Sorry this went on so long, but I had a lot to say here, a lot more than I thought. So I will see you in my next video. Take care.